Hello everybody, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I know I have people joining me from around the world, so welcome from whichever time zone you are in. My name is Ilona, I'm a milliner based in London, and today I've got a very jam-packed stream schedule, so I have to do my best to keep myself on track. Oh, we're just going to sort out the music. Hopefully there's some music that will come in now. I know some people don't like it when there's music in the background, some people do. People are very split on it. I think a little bit of light music in the background is nice because sometimes I have nothing to say if I'm demonstrating something and the silence can be slightly eerie sometimes. So do let me know that everything is good. If you still can't hear the music, then I haven't got it on loud enough, but hopefully that's all fine. But once again, welcome everybody. Do let me know in the chat where you're all coming from around the world, and tell me what your weather's like today, because oh my goodness, in London, it is just absolutely insane today. Today has been the last day of the heat wave that I think swept across Europe, and it finally reached our little island, and it's just been a complete nightmare. And I live in a flat where I cannot create a through breeze, so we have just been sweltering. My poor cat, Drusilla, she grew her winter coat super early because we had some really cold days early on in September. And she's just been really, really struggling. Last year when we had the 40-degree heat, she didn't actually struggle as much because that was right in July. She'd molted all her fur off, all the winter coat off, and she was sort of okay. But this week has just been really bad for her. and but she's doing better now. She's been sleeping on ice packs. I had a nap today and I slept on an ice pack and it was glorious. Right, well, yes, I'm seeing lots of people from the US saying that it's hot, and Anissa from Belgium, hi, saying it's very hot as well. Everywhere is hot, hot, hot. So also, I do apologize for the shininess today. There is no way to keep that at bay other than trying to fan myself down. Because last time I streamed, I think it was also hot, and we had the balcony door open, and I live right next to a train line behind me, and I listened back to the stream and I could hear the trains and it annoyed me. So today we've got the windows closed and hand fans at the ready. How pretty is this one? Look at that, that's hand painted. Isn't that gorgeous? There we go, all those hand painted flowers. Anyway, we're not here for fans, we're here for some millinery, aren't we? So as usual, I like to start with what's new. Now, I'm very aware I haven't really posted much on pretty much anywhere. I usually post on Instagram, so you can follow me at Violona Millinery if you want. I am planning to post a lot more than I have been, and I've been super busy because I've been making, during the heat wave, I've been making my winter collection, which if you watch my previous video with the Phalaenopsis orchid, you might have seen the hats behind me change. And some of those hats were part of my upcoming collection. So if you want a preview, go back and watch the Phalaenopsis orchid tutorial and you'll see some of my hats. I will probably be releasing them on Instagram, just images, and maybe a couple of videos of how they look like from different angles. So that's all been in the works. The other thing that's been in the works is I have made a big jump. I made a big investment in commissioning a custom hat block. I've never done that before. I was hoping to film the process for you, but actually the process was so easy, there wasn't really much to it. I had this vintage Spartree hat block, which some of you might remember from my Restoring Vintage Hat Blocks video. This is a hat block from John Boyd Hats that Sarah Marshall from John Boyd Hats gave to me to use because she said she thought the beret would look good on me, and it does look good on me. And not only does the beret on this block look good on me, it also seems to be a universally flattering shape. So I thought it was such a shame to let this block go to waste, and I invested in a hat block. So what I did is I sent this in the post to a hat block maker here in the UK, and about a month or so afterwards I got this back. Look at that, how gorgeous is that shape? I think it cost me about just over £300, maybe it was £350, that's British pounds, which yes is expensive, but so if I was a hobby milliner, I would not want to be spending that much because I feel like that kind of expense isn't justified when you're just making it for yourself. But the way I see it is that because I'm a business at this point, I mean, who knew that would happen? That's crazy, isn't it? And lots of people love this shape, and there's just no way I could continue blocking on this one because it had a crack in it. Let me show you the crack. Where's the crack? There, right there. This happened the last time I blocked on it. I just pulled the felt a little too hard because if I had been blocking in fur felt, I don't think this would have happened, but it's just so fur felt is just so expensive, and I like to try and make accessible hats, so that's why I prefer using wool felt. So I blocked wool felt on this, and I didn't steam it through hard enough, and I pulled too hard, and then there was this massive crack, and I thought, oh no, the beret block has gone. And technically, I could still block on it. It's sort of structural enough, but I wasn't sure how many more hats I could get off it. I wasn't sure. The thing about sparterie blocks is, I read somewhere in a book, I think it was a milliner's biography, and they were saying, oh, when we make sparterie blocks, we only block five models on a sparterie block, then that's it. And that was the kind of business model. I think this might have been, I've read too many books, and I cannot remember exactly which book it was in, but it might be in Aggie Tarrap's biography. If you've not been to a live stream before, you've not seen many of my videos, then let me explain who Aggie Tarrap is. Aggie Tarrap was a Danish milliner who came to live in London and made lots of hats. He made some hats for the royal family, and that's where his start really took off. And I've been reading his autobiography, and I think he must have been the one that said, like, for the really exclusive hat models, he'd only block 5, and then that's it. That's it for the block, partly because the block gives up after 5, and goodness knows how many were blocked on this. I've blocked about 10 berets on this, I think. And that's on the 10th one, that's when it, I've just spotted another crack there. That's when this one gave up. So I thought it was time to invest. And here's that wooden one. Look at how gorgeous that looks. So the hat block maker I used is Guy Morse Brown. And they were really good to work with, really easy. So if you are looking for a block, if you're looking for a custom block, or if you're looking for like a standard block, I think they've got the most reasonable prices. And they're working really hard to keep block making as an art form alive, because you might not know, but in the UK we have this thing called a heritage crafts list. And what that does is it tracks, the charity organisation that runs that, they track which crafts are endangered or going to be endangered if no one is trained up in them. They do their best to try and train up apprentices and keep the art alive. So thank goodness that we've got them. There's lots of other hat block makers. There's also someone, Boone and Lane, they're very popular with the top high-end milliners. I asked them for a quote, but that was too out of my budget. So I think if I was super, super fancy, I might have gone with them, just because, I mean, it's like everything, really. You have like your low range, your low range stuff, your mid range stuff, and then your high end stuff. And I could only afford the mid range stuff. I mean, to be honest, a piece of wood is a piece of wood, isn't it? So I don't actually know why there's such a varied price difference in block making, but that's an art form I'm not familiar with. So there might be some differences, technical differences, that I'm not aware of. But anyway, long story short, new hat block, haven't even blocked on it yet. See, look, no pins. This is how busy I've been. This is why I haven't been posting to Instagram, or I've been finding it really difficult to make videos as well, because I've just been so busy making winter hats. Right, what else is new? So a few more new things, and then we're going to jump into the, I have behind me here, there's a stack of hats, but also under that stack of hats, I've got what I'm calling my Millinery mystery box, which I will be unboxing and looking at what's inside. I have a list of what should be inside, but I haven't opened it. I specifically wanted to wait to do that live on stream with everyone. But before we get into that, to show you a few more things, some new tools and some new hats. Look at this. I blocked this on a plant pot. This is a common trick that lots of milliners will tell, like, starter, beginner milliners to do. Oh, if you can't find a hat shape, a block, then block on a plant pot. And actually, do you know what? It doesn't produce a half bad fez. So let me pop it on. I've done my hair in a bun, so I don't actually, oh, and there's a pin in it. I don't think this is, it's not gonna fit on my head. But you have to imagine it more like this. Like that's quite a, like a 60s shape almost. Look at that, the way it kind of goes up like a beehive. I was thinking what it needs is a big swooshy feather, right? So something that either goes up in like a curve, or it kind of like goes down in a curve like this. So from the side, just like a sweeping feather. I think that's gonna look pretty good. I'm trying to remember the name of those feathers that are quite long and thin and sometimes they're patterned. Are they partridge, pheasant? I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. I don't work with feathers much. So that's an area of millinery that I haven't yet had time to explore. So that's on my kind of future to-do list, learn more about types of feathers, because feathers are beautiful. And the feathers that I use in the millinery industry tend to be feathers that are a byproduct of the food industry, as is the case with actually quite a lot of millinery materials. So it would be a shame to not use them. I know some people are quite against feathers or any kind of animal products, but when I've met people like that, I've tried to explain to them in a very kind of accessible way that yes, I can see their point of view about not using any animal products, but while we still have a meat industry, you've got lots of the animal going to waste if it's just thrown away. So you want to use, if you're going to use an animal, you might as well use as much as you can. And I think in Western culture, we're quite bad at doing that. I think the Asian cultures do that much better than we do. And millinery can be a way to try and help those European industries of using up everything that's produced. Anyway, that's my fez. Fezes are cool. What else is new? So I went to a market today, partly why I had a nap, because I was so tired after being out. And actually, we were vlogging this morning with Mr. Hat. Mr. Hat, known as Matthew Ames in the chat, he's our moderator today. So everyone show your appreciation for Mr. Hat taking some time out of his weekend to help moderate the chat and make sure there's no robots that join us. I'm going to show you something I got. This is I think it's called a ratchet screwdriver or something. But what I like about this is it came with all these nibs, which is kind of exactly the same as my standard IKEA screwdriver that I like using. But if you pop one of these in here, you can twist it with your fingers. Like this. And this is super handy for sewing machines. I have taken up a new hobby of restoring vintage Singer sewing machines. I haven't filmed any of that because there's part of my life that I just want to keep, like, just for me. But I don't know, if you're interested in seeing sewing machines, then I guess I could post pictures of them. But anyway, getting all those screws, if you use a sewing machine, you know exactly what I mean, where you've got the arm going across and then where the needle plate is. Getting to the screws in those is a nightmare with a big screwdriver. And sewing machines tend to come with like the tiny little screwdrivers that I'll actually get out later in the stream because I use one of those tiny screwdrivers to swap out the heads of my flower making tools when we get to flower making. But this has just been so fast and easy to use. So, and I didn't know this tool existed before. So this is something I like to do on the streams, is just share new things I've discovered with you guys in case you didn't know these kind of things existed. So how great is that? So a ratchet screwdriver, I think, or I think it's actually a ratchet right-angled screwdriver or something like that. Anyway, it's great. Get yourself one of these if you use your sewing machine a lot and need to deal with bobbins and oiling and all of that kind of stuff. So that's great. What was I saying before? Oh, I went to the market. And in the market, they had a honey stand that had little bars of beeswax, which this is just exactly what I needed. I have an old block of beeswax that I use for waxing my thread. So since I've been making my autumn-winter collection of everything in wool felt, I've obviously been using waxed thread. And my old beeswax block is looking exceptionally manky. And I wanted to show it to you guys, but it's so manky that it just, like, no. Just, I'm not showing that to anyone. I'm not going to throw it away. I'm probably going to melt it down and try and strain out, like, the bits of lint in it and try and reset it in a new block. But I've got myself a new block so that I don't have to feel disgusting when I use the old beeswax block. Do you guys wax your thread, or do you think that's an outdated practice? What do you think? I'd actually be very interested to know, because when I started, everyone, all the kind of courses I went to, they were always like, oh, wax your thread, wax your thread, wax your thread. But these days we use polyester thread, well, if you're using like the Gutermann sew all threads or whatever. But back in the day when you would have been using silk thread, I can see why you'd want to wax your thread, but none of my millinery books ever say to wax thread. So I haven't figured out if thread waxing is just like, it was just so the norm that you didn't need to be told to do it, or if actually that became the norm at some point and then no one published books on it, and then it was just something that everyone says to do. Anyway, do let me know. One last new thing. Just trying to keep my working space empty. I've got myself one of these. Amazon recommended it to me, and I just went and bought it. I thought this is a marvelous idea. So it's a mini iron. I think people use it in quilting, but I figured there's probably a lot of times where I could be using it to like flatten out Petersham ribbon bands. I haven't opened it up or tested if it fits into my soldering iron. Maybe later on in the stream, when we get to the soldering iron stage, I will open this up and we can have a look. My one worry with it is it's not brass. I think it's chrome plated or something. And some of the reviews did say that the coating started to come off, which is a shame because this was actually really expensive. And I think it's expensive because it's branded, and I couldn't find a non-branded one that was just brass. You know, like all the other flower tools, they're just brass, and that works exceptionally well for flower making. But I think they've probably just chrome plated it because it looks pretty. Anyway, we'll test this out later. We'll see if it works. So, what next? Millinery mystery box. How exciting is that? I'm going to take a quick sip of water. Everyone's saying it's hot everywhere in the chat. What's everyone drinking? I hope everyone's keeping super hydrated. I've got a rotation of chilled water and tomato juice, which I also bought at the market I went to this morning. Glorious. It's my grandma's favourite juice, so I like it too. Right, let's go through some of the stuff in the mystery box. I've got some hats there as well that I'll get to, that I've ordered for use as materials. Here's the box. Look at how big that is. That is an absolutely giant box. I'm going to plonk it on the table. Right. Let's get into it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up and just make sure there's no like delivery note or anything with any addresses in it. And then I'll show you all. Packaging nuts. It's so big it doesn't fit in frame. Okay, there's a few things with addresses, so I'm just quickly going to unpack that. Just make sure I don't, whoops. There we go. I know this kind of defeats the point of unboxing, but maybe I should have thought this through a bit better. So I'll tell you the story behind this in 1 second. Oh, I guess I could tell you what I'm taking out of the box. So I've just had a big bag of Petersham ribbons. This is more Petersham ribbons, some GIMP braids. We'll go through all of those in 1 second. Oh, some straw braid. I will show you all in any second now. That's all fine. I was not expecting there to be so much in this box. I'm very aware all you're all looking at is the box. Right, I think I've got to a stage where I'm happy to just take the box off and tell you what's in this. So, I did another pop-up shop. Ooh. Hats fell down everywhere. I did a pop-up shop a few weeks ago in central London, and a lady came in to just have a look around. She was just shopping in the area, and she said she's a retired milliner, and she's got boxes of things, and she doesn't know what to do with them, and would I like to have them because I'm making things and using them up? And I said, yes, absolutely. So she sent me her old stash, which is brilliant and amazing. So let's go through this stash. So she told me what's in it, but I haven't actually looked. So I'm expecting lots of ribbons, and I'm expecting some really gorgeous straws, and I'm so excited about the straws, because if you know anything about straw, you will know you just cannot get good quality. Well, you can't get straw in the same quality that you used to be able to get. And there's many legitimate reasons for that, which I won't get into in this video. But it means that when I find a stash of old straws, whether it's a job lot of hats on eBay going up for auction or something, or even if they're made up, which I'll get to, I've got a stack of already made hats, but in gorgeous quality straws that are going to be reused by me. I just have to have them, because, you know, don't let good straws go to waste. Right, let's get into what's in all these bags. So first up, we've got loads of Petersham ribbons. Oh my goodness, they are so gorgeous. Oh, they're so soft. The quality of these is incredible. Oh my goodness. That is so soft. So this says this is nylon Petersham ribbon. I don't think I've come across nylon Petersham ribbon before. That's interesting. So this is 25mm Petersham ribbon. Well, it says color 1, but I'm guessing it's it's off-white. I wouldn't call that white. I would say that's a slightly off-white. Or maybe it is white. Maybe it's a white that's faded with age, because a lot of white things yellow. I buy quite a lot of vintage materials, and whenever something's listed as white and it arrives, it tends to actually be more ivory, but I know to expect that, so I don't blame that at all. Right, some more Petersham ribbon in pink. Oh, this pink is so pretty. That is a lovely, lovely shade. Look at that pink. Oh, so pretty. It's like the perfect pink color. It's not too sweet and sugary. It's not too peachy that it reads as peach. Oh, it's lovely. I mean, if I wear pink, I prefer to wear peachy pinks, but this is a really gorgeous, like, true pink, I would say. Doesn't lean any one way or the other. Some polka dot ribbon. This is very clearly polyester. I have got no idea what to do with ribbon like this. I'm not very good at, like, I call it like twee millinery, because some people really like the really sweet, almost like Lolita style kawaii, like lots of like really cutesy bows and things. I'm not very good at designing that, so I know this is exactly the kind of ribbon that one would use for that. And maybe I might just turn it into some bows or some hair bows or something, and just make sure that the ribbon isn't wasted and it's actually being used and worn and loved. NYC Mermaid says, hello darling, love your channel. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining, and I'm really glad that you enjoy the channel. Some more Petersham ribbon. This one's definitely an off-white. Let's compare this one to the other white one. I'm going to end up with a mess on my table. Yeah, look at that difference there. So yeah, that first one I opened, definitely a white, definitely an off-white. Lots of uses with these. So a lot of people like to match the Petersham ribbons to the inside of their hats. And if you're buying ribbon, just buy the 1 meter from your favorite supplier. That's quite easy to do, because what tends to happen is suppliers can say, you can message suppliers and say, I bought your wool felt cape plean in this color, what's your closest matching ribbon? And they'll just be able to send you that and show you the perfect match. But if you are trying to make more than just one hat, Sometimes what I like to do is just stock rolls of Petersham ribbon in white, ivory, and black, because most of those things will go into most hats. Do I have an example of this? No. Oh, yes, I do have. No, not around me. Never mind. I'll have to show you some other time exactly what I mean by that. But let's carry on going through these ribbons. Some navy. Oh, I need some navy ribbon. That's useful. I'm going to make a navy beret on this block. I think that's going to look so good. This block with the navy. It's going to look so classic. So that is going to be very useful. It's very wide though for a hat band. So for inside a hat band, usually people will use this size ribbon. And then this is the next size up. It's you can see the difference there. It's quite wide. I actually prefer to use the thinner ribbons, but that's because I make smaller hats. I always think that the ribbon you use on the inside of a hat to kind of mask the raw edges of your wool or straw or whatever you're using, I like to match the width of the ribbon to the size of the hat. So if I've made a big beret, like the one I would make on this block, I like to use 25mm Petersham. So that's I think in American, that's 1 inch, I think. I'm not very good at the metric to imperial conversion, so do forgive me. But yes, it's so the 2.5mm Petersham in the bigger hats, and that's the kind of size that you tend to see in like fedoras or anything like that. And then in my smaller hats, which I don't have any around me right now, like in that Phalaenopsis orchid mini button beanie beret, whatever you want to call that shape, I've used a ribbon that's actually quite thin. So this one, so that's about 1.5mm. So this smaller size. Right, more white ribbon. We've already seen all the white ribbon. This is, I have got so many uses for this. I get through a lot of white ribbon. I don't get through my black ribbon as much because I don't make that many black hats. But we'll get to that in a bit because I've got a whole load of black straw behind me. So we'll get to making black hats. Some gorgeous blue. I keep showing that camera and that camera's not there. There we go. Let's go here. Look at that blue. Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. That blue and the pink together. Oh. This is heavenly. This is so much fun. Oh, that's an interesting trim. So this is a ribbon with something known as a picot edge. It's spelt P-I-C-O-T, so it's spelt picot, but it's pronounced picot because it's probably French, and the French like to drop the last consonants on their words. And I hope I haven't just offended anyone French in the chat, sorry. But that's kind of the thing we get taught when in Britain we learn French, is that if there's a consonant on the end of the word, you don't pronounce it in French. So this is a really nice, again, it's one of these really twee ribbons. It's kind of in the same vein as this blue one. I think it's another synthetic because it does not feel like silk. Once you start working with lots of silks and cottons and you start feeling them, your fingers will learn the texture. And this is something I never understood when I was younger, and my grandma would go shopping and she'd feel a bit of fabric and she'd be like, oh, this one's polyester, or oh, this one's viscose, this one's cotton, and whatever. And I'd be like, how can you tell, Grandma? We have to read the labels. How can you tell by the touch? And she's just like, well, she just knows. And so I didn't used to understand that. And now that I've been working with my hands for so much, I know, I can feel and tell. This might be like a nylon mix because it kind of feels, it feels too smooth to be polyester. This one feels polyester because it looks a bit shiny. Polyester always, especially vintage polyester, it has just a little bit of a shine to it. Oh, more pink and white. Perfect. Okay, looks like I'm going to be making pink hats for summer 2026, because also I have already started designing for summer 2025, which is 2 years ahead. I know that sounds crazy, but it's actually easier that way, especially if you can predict trends. But I do want to make a video on that actually, about like trend prediction and fashion and just my design process. So at some point that video will come. That's a video I started filming about a year ago and haven't finished. So there are lots of videos in the works. I just haven't had the time to finish them. Right. Is that going to be in the way? Sort of. Right. I will have to put all those ribbons back in a second. Oh, this braid. Oh, I don't want to take the elastic off, but look at that braid. How pretty is that? That's it's Gothic and it's Edwardian, or it can be Victorian. My mother's been getting into historical costume events, so I don't know if this is too precious to use on some of her costumes, but I might donate some of this to my mother depending on how generous I feel. That is just beautiful. I think this might be called something like gimp braid. I'm not sure. I don't know if gimp braid is like a very specific thing. I'll have to look into that. But if anyone knows what this stuff is called, do let me know, because I do like to know what all the things are. And some more millinery braid. Oh, look at that. That would look gorgeous on a boater. Mr. Hat, do you want a new ribbon on your boater? Look at this. It's like your colours. Red and yellow. Because those are the colours of the Robin logo from Batman. So I can make you I can retrim your boater that I've already retrimmed. Maybe for next season, red and yellow. Although red and yellow is going to be in for spring summer 2025. So for not next summer, the summer after, we'll retrim your boater in this. Right. Let me pop all of that back into the bag it came in. Oh, we didn't actually look at this one. Hang on. We didn't look at this one. We've got to look at everything. Ooh, is that an elastic? No, it's not an elastic. It felt like an elastic and then it wasn't. Can you see that? It's just another style of black braid. It's almost, this one looks more like an insertion braid. But I can imagine that sometimes you get like the 1930s style hats where you've got crin braid sewn into the shape of a hat. And I can imagine inserting this onto the edge of the crin braid. It would look gorgeous, just swirled around a crin braid hat. In fact, you know what? Let me show you a crin braid hat. Husband, on the wall in the room you're sitting in, there's a crin braid hat. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about, but this is the moment when we play. Does husband know what the milliner is talking about? Let's see. I'll give him a second to bring that through, and then I'll show you what I mean about the insertion braid. Right. These ribbons were packaged so well, and I've just destroyed the packaging. Thank you, dear. You got it right. Here's a crin braid hat. So you can see it's been sewn in the round like you would a straw hat. But what you could do is get braid like this, the insertion braid. And you can sew it around with the crin. So can you imagine if this hat had this black sewn all the way around? It would look so cool. It really would, I think. Right, let's put these things away so I can reach everything. At some point, I am going to have to take a break and maybe get some fresh air for 5 seconds. Otherwise, I'm going to completely melt. I'm sure you don't want me to melt away. But we've got a lot to get through. There was a hole in the bottom of this bag. Well done me. Sorry about the bang. Right. How is the later start time for everybody, by the way? Is this more preferable, starting later? Because I've been starting at 4 o'clock my time. But if everyone prefers a later start, I might start doing a later start. I had to do the later start today because at 4 o'clock it was just too hot to do anything. But do let me know, either in the chat or if you're rewatching, whether a later start was bad for you and you weren't able to make it. Right, we've got way more ribbons. Oh my goodness, I don't think I'm ever going to get through all of this. As in on the... Oh, this is fun. Oh, I've not got the camera on. I got too excited. I got too excited and forgot to switch the cameras. Look at that. That would look so cool as a waistband on a dress. So cool. Again, I'm thinking Edwardian, Victorian. That would look amazing. It's super textured. It's like it's got that same kind of gimp braidy texture, running down like in rows, and then it's got another like almost like a cord or a rope. Can you see the little squiggly lines? Oh, it's gorgeous. Amazing stuff. Another 2-colored Petersham. These are always so good for boaters. Just the 2-colored Petersham ribbons, they're so effective just visually. And more, okay, I'm going to quickly breeze through these. Blue, red and white. Green. Oh, this is my favorite color. I said I'm going to quickly go through them. Polka dot. Not so fond of the polka dot, but that's a really good polka dot actually. That is a properly stitched and woven polka dot, so it's not bits of paint, it's actually properly woven. That's a really good quality one. Wide black Petersham. Oh, that's a very fine quality Petersham. I wouldn't actually be surprised if this is a very beginning of the century Petersham, because you could get really, really finely woven ones. And I haven't got the right camera set up to show you closer, but maybe when I come around to using it, I might do some nice close-up footage of these. Red, pink, green. Oh, that's all of them in this bundle. This is great. This is so good. Look, another bundle of Petershams. Oh, some nice kind of shell oystery colors, blues, navy. Oh, a Petersham ribbon, a wide one that's had a smaller one stitched to it. So there's a stitching line just there. I think I'm starting to lose the light and I might need to change the lighting in a second. Oh, bit of leather. That's always useful. I've not used leather that much in millinery, apart from if you've seen on my Patreon, which you can sign up to. I don't post that much on Patreon, but if you sign up to my Patreon, what that does is that helps me fund the other YouTube videos for other people. So I'm afraid there aren't like lots of perks that you see other people on Patreons do, just because I am a one-woman business and it's really difficult for me to just do it by myself. But all of the money from Patreon gets put straight back into the production of these videos. So if you support me on Patreon, thank you so much, because you are enabling me to share all this knowledge with everyone else. But the perks that there are on Patreon, I did a leather flower making instruction sheet that you can download if you're a member, and I used leather for that. But more often than using leather and millinery, I actually use it to put on the heels of my dance shoes so that they don't make a noise when I dance in them. If you don't know, I'm also a dancer, so that's generally where my leather stash ends up, on the bottom of my dance shoes. All right, more millinery ribbons. That is the most gorgeous cornflower blue. Amazing. I cannot wait to use all these up. And more navies and whites. This is perfect. I absolutely love ribbons in these colors. Oh, elastic. Wonderful. I need a new belt. This is fabulous. This is what I'm going to make my new belt out of. Oh, and it's double-sided. Oh, that's interesting. Look at that. It's an elastic that folds over. So you've got the underside there, and that's the two different sides, and you fold over. I'm guessing you're supposed to put something in the middle and then sew it. Or you put it on the top of a skirt waistband and then you top stitch it down. That's probably what it's for, but I need a belt, so I might make it into that. Right, all of these we've looked at, and some more. Oh, this made in France Petersham ribbon. If you look at that, it says made in France. French ribbons are just the best. There is no contest there. Absolutely none. Just if you can get things that are made in France or in Switzerland, Switzerland for braids and things like that, and then France for ribbons. The French ribbons are just glorious. They are so good. And the vintage ones, what's very interesting about vintage ribbons is they come with paper. And I don't know why they do this. It must have been a way to help package them, I'm guessing. It must be a production line thing where maybe they come off the machine and then they're rolled onto paper. Or it's a preservation thing. But modern Petersham ribbon doesn't come with all of those. So if you know, let me know. I think I've seen other people wondering about why vintage Petersham comes in wrapped in paper. Right, more ribbons. Oh my goodness, these are just so good. Amazing. And I need all these colors. I need all these colors. This is great. Amazing. I don't think I'm ever going to need to purchase Petersham ribbon ever again. I'm just so grateful that this milliner who I met was able to send me all this. I did pay her for it, so it's not like I'm getting it for free, because I thought it was important to make sure that I acknowledge that, and also I can afford to invest in that. I don't want to be getting things for free if I can pay for them. There was a time I couldn't pay for things, and now I can, so I'm very happy to make sure I do that. Some straw. I'm not going to unpackage this, but it's just your standard wheat straw and some more ivory, it looks like, or off-white Petersham. So this is also very useful stuff. It's a very tiny bit of straw, and it looks like it's been half stitched into something, but I'm sure I could probably make a trim out of it. The thing about millinery is nothing should go to waste. So keep all your offcuts, keep everything, even like the smallest bits of ribbons. Well, maybe if your ribbon is 5 centimeters, like this big, there's nothing you can really do with it. But even like a 10 centimeter bit of ribbon, I'm sure you can find a use for. Sometimes what I do, if I'm like repairing hats for some of my friends or for my mum or something, or someone I know who I'm not charging to just repair the inside of someone's hat that they've had for years and they love, as in when they're family. And I don't do hat repairs for people I don't know, so I don't do that. That's not my business. But when a friend asks me to like repair an inside of a hat band or something, what I might do is go into my stash of like offcuts of Petersham ribbon that are in like shorter lengths, and I'll stitch them together into one band. And then I'll do like a multicolored inside band in a hat, just to make sure that those things aren't wasted. I don't think I'd be able to sell a hat like that, because the prices that you charge for hats, they're so high that people do expect like perfection, matchy, and everything must be perfect. And that's fine. That's that part of society. But for kind of your everyday hats for my friends, and my mum has a lot of hats that I tend to repair, the ribbon inside those, it can just be multicolored. Just cooling down. Great question just in from Anissa. Anissa says, how do you organize your storage? I have so many ribbons and trims. They are in a box and then I forget what I have. Yes, that is a problem. I know exactly what you mean. Let's get Mr. Hat again. Mr. Hat, could you come in here and pass me a box of ribbons? I'll tell you where they are once you're in the room. So I'll show you how I organize my my smaller offcuts. You're gonna have to duck in front of the camera. Oh, okay, off he goes. In there's a green straw box behind the threads. Yes, exactly that. Okay, Anissa, this is for you. This is how I organize my small offcuts that I've just been talking about. Off you go, Mr. Hat, thank you. So, I have a little box, and what I do is these are ribbons that there's too many, they're too long to do what I do with them, but this is inside the box. So because it's all stacked vertically, do you remember during lockdown, or was it during lockdown, when everyone was watching Netflix and there was a show with a Japanese lady who tidied, Marie Kondo? You know how she said to stack your t-shirts and jeans upright? That was kind of, I saw that and I thought, That is the approach that needs to happen to ribbons. So here they are, just stacked upright. And what I've done is I've made these little cardboard things. You can make these out of, you know, bits of cardboard. If you order things online and they come in cardboard, this is a great way to reuse that cardboard so that, you know, you don't feel like it's going to waste so much. But I've made these. You can see the shape here. I will briefly pause, so if you need to, you can take a screenshot to remind yourself of the shape. This has a bit of a funny cutout. Let me hold up another one. Here it is. Look at that. So all it is, it's a bit of cardboard with like a section cut out on the top and the bottom, and then I just wrap the ribbons around them. Now, some people would say that's actually not great for the ribbon because you end up with kinks in the ribbon, and you do, but the trick to that is don't put like a giant roll of ribbon. So if your ribbon has a giant roll, don't do this. But if it's like a few offcuts of ribbon, you can see this one here, it's only gone around about 4 times. So that's how I store those. The bigger ribbons, well, the thing is nothing tends to build up because I tend to just really go through it so fast. So the only other ribbons I have are ribbons that are on rolls, and then I stack the rolls up in a very shallow drawer, or you can do it in boxes. The trick to good organization is just put everything in a box, and everything must have a place. So everything can go into a box, and then that box must have a place, and you must remember where that box is. Or give yourself like an organizational spreadsheet or something. So if you need something and you have a big storage space and you don't remember what it is, just catalog everything. And that way you will remember where things are. And I always look at organizing as like a fun activity. So sometimes I'll spend a weekend reorganizing a drawer or something just because it's gotten a bit messy. And reorganization, I find it very therapeutic. So anyway, I hope that helps, Anissa. I hope that answers your question. Just generally everything upright. And if it's really small offcuts, if you wrap them around something and stack them upright, I'll organize all of my new stash of ribbons, and then I'll show you probably on Instagram. So go and follow me there. I'll show you my organization of all these new ribbons. Right. And now we get to the fun bit of the straws. I don't think I've got the right camera set up for this because I don't think you're going to see. Oh my goodness. This straw, or can you see the weave? You can see the weave. Look at that. And it's so shiny. This is so shiny. Look at that. It was the fashion in the 80s to have super shiny straws. And then we kind of went in for a matte look, but matte is really hard to do with stiffeners. So I think we've all kind of gone back to doing shiny hats again because it's just easier to produce shiny hats because stiffeners will always give a bit of a shine. This is glorious. But this is what I mean by vintage straws. You don't get vintage straws like this anymore. That's why I collect them up. Anytime I see like a job lot on eBay of vintage straws, that's what I go for. Oh, some cord. I don't know what I'd use that for. Maybe corset lacing. If I need to relace any of my corsets, I'll just, there we go, corset lacing, I guess. This is packaged very, very well. Ooh. Okay, I've made a mess. Okay, I'm just going to make a mess everywhere. I was trying to do this very neatly, but it just wasn't going to happen. There we go. Right, everything has come out. Okay. Oh, and there's also a bunch of wires in the bottom of that box. I'm not going to get those out because that's just going to be a mess. Right, let's see. Aha, more straws. Right. Just the caps. That's good because I prefer to make smaller hats and pillboxes, and I never like to waste the brims. So the stitch, the plaiting on this, or the weaving, look at that. Look at what good quality that is. That is tiny. Amazing. So we've got a black. Oh my goodness, there's so many. So there's lots of black ones. That's a proper Panama. I'll show you how I know in a second. That is a single weave, and that's a parasisal. So the way I know what type of weave it is, and you don't necessarily need to know the type of weave, but the different weaves vary in price. So you might wonder when you're purchasing a straw hood or a capelin to make something, you might wonder, oh, why is this one £30 and why is this one only 15? I'll buy the 15 one. And then it comes and you might be disappointed that it's not what you were expecting. So I'll just very quickly explain. This is a parasisal. You can see a cross, so one way and the other way. That's a parasisal. Pari means two or double, so double weave, probably sisal. Sisal is the type of straw fibre. And look at how neat that's knotted on the inside. That is insane. The level of skill to make something like this, just the capelin, incredible. Right. This one, I'm not sure exactly because I tend to only work with parasisal. This is, I think, a single weave. And I think that because it's got only one side, you can see it's not got the cross like the other one had. So there's the cross, there's just the one line, the L we could call it. Right. And that's a lovely kind of blue, not quite navy, bit too bright to be navy. Right, the black. This looks like a Panama. So the Panama weaves, they're kind of like circular. So you don't get this kind of cross pattern. You kind of get a circular pattern in the top. So if you look at men's Ecuadorian Panama hats, you should see these kind of circles in them. And you've got this lovely green. That is such a gorgeous colour. Some of these I'm tempted... Oh, there's two! I was about to say some of these I'm tempted to just turn into hats for myself, but if there's two, I can do myself one and then one to sell. That's fun. I'm not going to take these out of each other, but there are two in there. I don't want to ruin the edges, so I don't want to handle them too much. Then this is a bleached parasisal. And then a pink parasisal. Oh, it's got a little bit of something on there, but that's okay because I will probably be able to cover that up with a trim or something. That's the thing about using vintage materials. If you get some vintage materials and something's a bit damaged, don't be upset because, you know, things happen. Things were produced, 60 years ago and they've been in storage and they're a bit dented or they've got a bit of transfer dye or something. And that doesn't matter. You can still use them. This is... I don't actually know what weave this is. This might be another one of those single ones, but I don't know. All I know, like what I know for certain is if it's got a cross, then it's the parasisal type. Right, that's all of those. And there's a bunch that fell out. There's a bunch that fell out as I teared into the box. Right. So we've got a straw brim. Oh, this might be to do with that bit of straw from earlier in that bag that I didn't unbox. But you can do lots of things with straw like this. So there's some hats I've seen where people like twist it into really fun shapes. I've never made anything like that before, but you can look at that already, right? Stitch that together and it's a hat instantly. I mean, you'd have to spend a lot of time using pins and clothes pegs, but that is actually a really cool shape. You see, now I want to pin that together and I don't have any pins. Okay, I'm just going to remind myself of how I did this so I can come back later. Okay, hopefully I'll be able to recreate that later. But you see, look at that, instant hat. These must be... Oh, interesting. These must be matching brims from the other ones, but this is very interesting. Look, what they've done, the milliner who used to own this, is there's a stitching, there's like, what's it called? Like a satin stitch, a really tight zigzag stitching. I'm showing you to the camera and not, there we go. A really tight zigzag over here, like a satin stitch, just compressing one brim to another brim. This is a really cool way of doing like a duotone brim. This is great. This is an amazing idea. And that Petersham on the inside. This is already like a pre-made hat. I'm gonna have to make that up and find a way to to do it. Right, we've got another straw. Another straw. Oh, it's that pink again. That pink is lovely. Another straw. Slight dye inconsistencies on this one. But again, I think that can be, like, if these kind of defects in the millinery materials bother you, there's ways to disguise them in the hat. You can either disguise them, like if something has a stain, pop a flower on it, or a bow, or some veil, or something. Or if something has inconsistent dye, then make that part of the design. Like, what I could do is take this straw, mix up some, like, fuchsia hot pink straw dye, and then, like, dip it in. And then this pink won't look so weird because I've dipped parts of it in pink. You see? I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. And I hope you come away with lots of ideas from this stream, you know, because I can't make all these hats. So help me make all my ideas. So I hope you find this inspiring. Right, that's a brim. It looks like it's been partly blocked. You can see here. But you can see it's been partly blocked. It's not in the best of shape. There are inconsistencies in the weave. Look, you can see the wall behind me through these holes in the weave. But again, I'm sure there's something I could do with this. What I sometimes like to do with brim offcuts is actually run a stitching line through the top and then block them on one of those, I think people call them halo crowns, even though they're technically not. Those kind of headband things that stick up. They block really well, just brim offcuts. Another brim offcut. And another brim offcut. So this one's got little cuts in it. So before the milliner sent me these, she did say what happened. What it was is she got a like a bulk order, a wholesale order for some hats from somewhere, and she ordered, made to order lots of these capelines, and when they came, they were just too tight to use, so she couldn't use them. And the only way, and when you get a weave that's too tight, it's essentially the hat just looks really stiff, and it just looks like a helmet. And it, well, I mean, this is the top of one of these. You can see what I mean by, look, it looks like a helmet. Like, this is really difficult to actually work with because the weave won't move. There's no give in it. So if you look at, I had somewhere, oh, I threw it. Oh no, it's here. If you look at this capeline from earlier, look at that. That does not have that bulbous bowler hat shape. And that's because this weave is much looser. So it's actually easier to work with. But that's okay. There's plenty of things that can be done with things like this. I don't have any ideas right now. But again, I just don't have to use these bits that are cut into, or these bits that are cut into can be folded over. I don't know. Maybe you've got some ideas for what I can do with these. Oh my goodness, there's so many. I don't think I'm ever going to have to buy any more millinery materials ever. Ooh, a knotted navy. Oh, that's very pretty. It's either a knotted navy or that's the underside. Oh no, that's the underside. So by knotted, oh, you're not going to be able to see the texture. Let's see. So a knotted texture is just where the knots are on purpose made big. Oh, you can sort of see them. You see that diagonal crisscross of the texture? Those are the knots. So the knots are purposefully made on the right side of the hat to be used as part of the design. I really love knotted straws. I think they're so beautiful. But I think that might actually be the underside. But it doesn't matter. I could make it the overside because I think those look fabulous. Right, there's a whole bunch more capelines here. They're all the same at this point. Just a ton of white ones and a ton of black ones. Well, when I say white, straw doesn't actually come in white. So this is bleached straw. And then you saw earlier, hang on. Oh dear. This is the natural. I'm buried in hats, my goodness. Right, this is the natural. And then the bleached was, oh, you can see the bleached on this one. This one's the bleached one. Right, I no longer wish to be buried in hats. Mr. Hat, I might need some help just because I actually cannot get out of this little corner back here. This is quite something. I've really made a mess. I got very exuberant with that unboxing. So maybe if Mr. Hat comes through, I can just hand you these out of my millinery jungle. And then you can free me from my tower of millinery. Don't put them in the kitchen. Just put them on the floor, it's fine because the floor is clean. Okay. So, how long have I been streaming now? An hour and 10 minutes? That's not too bad. I was wondering if we'd been doing for too long, but no, I think we're good for time. We're good for time. I had a few more hats that I wanted to talk about. Is anyone feeling as overwhelmed by me, by all this new stuff I now have to accommodate? Right. Get rid of all of this stuff. Right, so, and now I will get into, so actually, this now doesn't seem as good as when I first ordered it. So, I'll start with some of these. Yellow. This is one of my favorite colors in straw. I think straw works so well in black and navy, but also in yellow. So this is not from the lady who is the retired milliner. This is just me scouring eBay for hats. And I'm actually really disappointed in this, right? I love the material, and what I'm disappointed in is that it's all dented. Now, thankfully, I wasn't a normal consumer buying a hat to wear, because this is just, like, you can't wear that. And the sad thing is that I have seen people go to vintage events who've bought a vintage hat and they're wearing a very battered vintage hat, and I don't think they realise that it's not supposed to be battered. And when this hat arrived in the post, it was packaged in a shoebox. It was like squished like this in a shoebox. That's not acceptable. I mean, it looked battered in the listing, but not this bad. And I just couldn't be bothered to kick up a fuss, but I paid £15 for this one, which is way too much for something battered. Now, luckily, I was buying it for the material because I'm going to take off all this ruffle. This ruffle happens to have some really, really sweet lily of the valley flowers. And I've been trying to figure out, I'm still trying to figure out how to use my Lily of the Valley flower tool, which I did in a stream, and then I did a snippet of it. So if you're interested in Lily of the Valleys, there is a Lily of the Valley video somewhere on my channel. But that was a kind of unboxing the tool and trying to figure out how it works. And then I didn't really get further with it, because the trouble with making these tiny, tiny, tiny Lily of the Valley flowers is that they are just too fiddly. They're too fiddly and too time consuming, and yeah. It's just, the amount of money I'd have to charge for a hat like that is just way up. It's way outside of my business model's pricing structure. So I just wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to have a use for that Lily of the Valley tool, other than making Lily of the Valley flowers for myself. And now I've got some vintage examples that I can look into exactly how they're made. I can really dissect these with my eyes and try and replicate them. Right, so that's one of these. Oh, and I was saying earlier about using the thicker ribbons in a beret hat. So this is the 2.5 centimeter ribbon inside one of these. Some people call them helmet hats. These are the kind of vintage bubble beret things. You're not supposed to wear them this high. This bun is in the way, but then if I try and put it on over the bun, it's not gonna fit me because of the ribbon. Anyway, I'm going to take this apart and use this straw for something, and it's going to be a lot better. The dents will come out with steaming, so that's also something to think about. Because also, dented hats on eBay should be listed for much less than like a new mint condition hat. So always, if you see a hat that's dented in an eBay listing and someone's listing it for a ridiculous price, challenge them on it, because that's not acceptable. It's only acceptable to charge giant prices if it's pristine. So these next 4 I bid for on eBay, and I think I got them for about £20, which comes to, maths cannot compute, a £5 each. Then there was shipping or something. But I thought that was a really good deal, because then again, they're not mint condition, obviously. They are not meant for wearing. These are vintage hats that I'm going to use up for materials. So I've got 2 black ones to add to the collection of many other black ones. This one's got a really quite dead-looking plasticky flower on it. I would say what's happened here is that someone's bought a hat and then they've stuck a cheap plastic flower onto it. So that's fine. Some people like to do that, but I don't like the cheap plastic flowers. I will probably take this flower apart and see if I can do something else with the parts of it so that it's not totally gone to waste. So those are the 2 black ones. And then this is a really nice, like, I'd call this like a coffee colour. I think it's just such an interesting colour. I've not seen this kind of colour in straw much. I think it's really interesting. Oh, battery. Mr. Hat, could you come and do the battery for me? But I also think, so I'll show you this last one. So again, a really lovely quality straw. And it's got a wire in it. It's got a weird flower on it, and I'll take that apart and redo it. Oh, not that battery, dear. Not that battery. Not that battery. This battery. Yes. But since the battery has given up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break. You might see an advert or so just while we change the setup, and we'll move the cameras around so that I can show you some other stuff. And I think it might be getting too late for flower making, but we'll see. I'll try and get through that quickly. But don't go anywhere, because after the break, I've got a pile of books, and a pile of books that I will be listing for sale on Etsy and eBay for international as well. So stick around to not miss those books. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We've had a change of lighting. It got dark outside. This is one of the problems with this time of year. It's past the summer solstice, and so it starts getting darker at earlier and earlier times, and it's 7:20 here at the moment, so I've had to quickly rejig the lighting. So I hope you can all still see me okay, because the side camera was struggling there, but we've switched positions. We've had a break. I've had my juice break. Actually, I need a little bit of water. After all that excitement of the boxes, let's go through some books. So, as I said just before the break, I've got some books that I will be listing online because they happen to be duplicates of books that I already have. So, what we'll do is I've got these books in 2 piles, and we'll do one from, oh, how is that not connected? Oh, we didn't move the wire. Sorry, everybody. 1 second. Where's the wire gone? Technical issue. Oh dear, and I've just hit the microphone. Sorry about that, everyone. We forgot to plug the wire in. There we go. Let's see. Are we seeing things? Are we seeing hats? Or books? There we go. There was one thing we missed. Oh, right. There we go. Right, and we are back. So these are my 2 book piles. And oh, while we were on break, NYC Mermaid said, "I'm so inspired by all your beautiful materials. I used to make hats for my mother, and I haven't made any since she passed away, but you've started me thinking about it again." Well, I am so glad that you want to start thinking about making hats again, and I think that's so sweet that you would make hats for your mother. I sometimes make hats for my mother. She likes the kind of historical millinery hats. I've made her some kind of fashion hats, but she doesn't wear the fashion hats. But historical millinery hats my mother does wear. So yes, that is a thing. But well, thank you so much for your lovely comment, and I'm glad that you find this interesting and want to make hats again. Right, let's get back to our books. So, 2 piles here. 1 pile for me and 1 pile for you because these are duplicates. I haven't gotten around to listing them yet, but I'm going to be doing a massive web list of like everything, of my winter collection, of these books, of maybe some other bits and pieces. We'll see if I get around to it, but so if you'd like any of these books, either, like, I don't know, reserve them now and send me an email, or wait till the listing comes out, but it might be too late. So if you see any of the books that I'm going to list that you want, send me an email to hats@byalona.co.uk and we'll arrange something. So let's start with one of the books I'm keeping for myself. This is an Italian book that's actually, I think it's in Duo language. So like it has a paragraph in Italian and then a paragraph in English. And I've got the sister book to this, which is all about ladies' hats. And this one's all about men's hats. So I haven't actually had a chance to flick through this yet. But I was going to do it on stream. But I did say at the beginning I was going to try and keep a tight schedule. And I'm about half an hour behind where I'd like to be, because I do want to show you some exciting new flower making techniques that I tried. So I'll try and get to that. See if I zoom out a bit more. That'll do. Right. Hats. A Stylish History and Collector's Guide by Jodie Shields. So once again, I can't recommend any of these just yet because I haven't read them. I haven't even had a time to flick through them, but oh, how fun do these look? That looks awesome. My goodness, the work that must go into making something like that. Anyway, that'll be a nice evening read for me at some point. Hats in vogue since 1910. That's a really useful resource. I find looking at vintage hats really, really useful when I'm trying to get my creative juices flowing, just looking at how the different shapes were made, well, what different shapes there were, because there was such variety in vintage hats that we don't quite see today. Because today it's all about like micro trends where it's one trend, everyone does it fast, and then suddenly it's gone again. In the kind of 40s period this is 1946 on this page, you can see the variety here. They're all very, very different. They obviously still had trends, but they weren't so fleeting. So the style stuck around longer. There was more chance for designers and milliners to play with variety than there is today, I think. So again, lovely resource. Now, let's go to this pile of books I'm going to list to sell. This is How to Make Hats by Eve Boret. Boret or Boret, I'm not sure how to pronounce that correctly. This is one of the most useful small size vintage hat books I have ever read. Like, honestly, this is just such a goldmine of things. It's got everything. It's got cute little illustrations of tools and materials, and it's got really good illustrations on how to work with spartree. These days we don't really have spartree, but just substitute for buckram. It's got some really lovely descriptions of trims, and again, these illustrations, they are so detailed. They're a really great resource, and it's written very well as well. It's really easy to read. Look at that, beret instructions. And also, if you do imperial measurements, this is the book for you because it's in imperial. I'm sorry, everyone European. It's just the way it was here in the UK, and some people still use imperial. And I wish we used metric, because I grew up with metric in a double language household, so we were always metric. I never understood how people got away with learning just imperial in the UK when we've always done metric as well. But anyway, long complicated history of the UK. But Hats by Eve Boret, how to make hats. This one will be listed at some point, probably on my Etsy shop, but maybe also on eBay. But if you want this one, email me now before I list it and before it goes to someone else. From the Neck Up by Denise Dreyer. So I have this book as well. I refer to it all the time. It's really great for theatrical milliners and costume makers. So if you are someone who likes to do cosplay events, or if you are someone who likes to do like historical reenactments or historical garment archaeology and all that kind of stuff, this is the book for you. This is the spiral bound version. So this is a really good one for being able to open it up and hold it flat. I have, oh, it's not next to me. Usually all my books are next to me. This one must be somewhere else because I've probably got it open somewhere on another page and I'm reading it. The one I have is just classically bound. I can't remember what the different terms are, but the other version of it comes just like bound with glue on the side. But the spiral bound one is going to be super easy to use. It's got patterns in the back, all these theatrical different era patterns. And if you're not into that kind of historical reenactment stuff, then it's got some of the best descriptions of how to work with specific materials. So you've got, for example, chapters on foundations from flat patterns. This absolutely invaluable resource. And I can also a whole chapter on like how to design as well, which if you are struggling to make that transition from looking at other people's hats and finding your own style, then this is also a great book for that, because this is going to teach you design process and design language, which is super, super important. So sometimes milliners, or sometimes you go to a millinery course and you'll get taught like how to make a specific thing, which is great because you want to learn how to do a technique. But if you want to go and then start designing your own hats, you need this design school, art school knowledge to be able to do that. And if you're struggling with that kind of transition into a more professional millinery mind space, then this is the book for you. Once again, if you want it, email me now. Otherwise, someone else will buy it. Right. We'll go back to the pile that I might keep. Actually, this one I'm not sure. I haven't decided if I'm keeping this one or if I'm selling it, because I actually have a digital copy of this and I haven't really used it much myself. But this is really great for those little accessories. If you're into wire work and like tiaras or little wire hair clips or anything like that, then this is the book for you. I'm not going to be listing this one potentially straight away because I haven't decided if I'm keeping it, but if you email me and you really want it, then I will sell it to you. Anissa says, I'm very interested by this book. Was it the Hatmaking? This one? Then email me and we'll sort something out. Right, back to the ones I'm going to definitely keep for myself. I'm sorry, these ones I don't have duplicates of. So any books I have duplicates of, I'm going to list, but books that I don't have, I'm at least going to consume them for myself first. So this is Costume Accessory Series Hats by Fiona Clark. Let's see, what have we got? Oh, some interesting Regency bonnets. That's fun. That'll be for my mother's costume making then. Ooh, look at this fabulous pillbox. Oh, these are some lovely examples. This has got some great pictures in it. I'm definitely going to enjoy reading through this. Oh, some smoking caps. That's fun. Oh, look at that. That is so beautiful. Hat by David Schilling. Oh, that's a milliner whose name I have come across, and I've not actually had the chance to research him. My mum told me about him, so I'm going to do some research on him, and now I've got an actual image of his work, so I'm going to look him up at some point when I get round to that. Right, another book going to be listed. The Hat Book by Alan Coleridge. I'm pretty certain I showed this book, or my copy of it, on one of the previous streams. This is really great. If you're into flat pattern hats, there we go. This is great. It talks about trimming as well, but the flat pattern ones are really, really great in this book. Where are they? I mean, he's got lots of sections on other things, but look, here we go. Oh, I think I must have mentioned it in my Barbie video about What's That Hat, featuring hats from the Barbie film. That's where I mentioned it. But this is such a great book because it teaches you step by step these kind of classic hat sewn pattern shapes that you can take and you can then modify to make your own hat patterns from. So I think this is such a great resource. And the illustrations. Look at those illustrations. They're just so kind of... I'm pretty certain this is a book from the 80s. Let's see. Is this a book from the 80s? Yes. First published in Great Britain in 1980. And look at these illustrations. It's such a strong graphic style. I find them very inspiring to just even look at. So if you're interested in flat pattern hats, which I can't seem to say today, but email me about this one, The Hat Book by Alan Coleridge. More books. Okay, last two books, and then we get into flower making, because that's probably what everyone came here for anyway, so I'm sorry this other unboxing part has been so long, but we've got The Hat, Trends and Traditions by Madeline Ginsberg, forward by Hardy Amies. Ooh, that's fancy. What's in here then? What have we got? Some more historical hats. Ah, this is the style of hat I made for my mum last week because she's gone to like an English Civil War era event somewhere where she's playing a fancy lady. I think she's playing someone called Hester Tredescant, who was like the wife of like the top gardener in the UK or something. Anyway, that's my mother's fun new hobby. Oh, that's interesting. these diagrams of these little caps. There's some great pictures. Like, I'm so glad we live in the age of the internet where we can just type something into Google and then an image comes up. But actually, having stuff in books is sometimes easier because it's just always there, you know? Like, sometimes I find with the internet, because the internet is now so populated with stuff, it can actually be really difficult to find what you're looking for. So books remain the universally great resource for any research purposes. So that's what I'm keeping for myself. And my book pile is about to fall off the table. And this one I will be also listing online. Japanese fabric flowers, 65 decorative Kazanashi flowers to make. So Kazanashi flowers, from my understanding, is like a Japanese, I think Japanese or Asian. I'm actually really not sure. So, but it's an Asian style of fabric flower, and they look quite cute. I think there was a time when these were really popular as children's hair accessories. So if you've got lots of children in your family or something like that, these are really great. They're quite easy to make. My mum went through a phase of making these for everyone. They're quite easy to make, and these are quite easy to follow instructions. And you can stick them on like little alligator clips, you know, the clips that do that, the little small metal ones, and stick them in children's hair. They look really good. Oh, it tells you how to make the templates to make them as well. That's cool. Little rosettes. So yeah, if you want this one, email me. So that's all the books. So that was the fast round of books. Right, flowers then. Is this the bit of the live stream that everyone came for, and then I did a box unboxing and everyone was disappointed? Right. I have my big box of this project I've been trying to work through on these live streams. And last live stream, we tried a few things, they didn't work. So what I actually did is I did the sensible thing of I went away and I thought about things, and now I can present to you my findings from my box. Now, I was going to do some flower tool making things today, but it's gotten very late and it's very hot in this flat, so I don't really want to put on a soldering iron in this heat. So what I'll do is I'll do a bit of a show and tell, and then we will wrap up and talk about some conclusions in the flower making. But what I've done is I haven't completed every task, so I've kind of got a step-by-step instructional of things I can talk you through about what I've discovered about making flowers in certain ways. So, do you know what? Let's start. So firstly, who remembers the straw hat that I'm talking about? It was the straw hat that was with a little point on the top of it. You can go and watch the previous live stream if you want to learn more about that. But it had some green leaves around the top, in amongst all the white flowers. And the green leaves, they look like this. Let's zoom in on these, shall we? That's as far as that's going to zoom. There we go. So, this is the green leaf off the flat. This is the green leaf off the hat. So it's a shiny kind of surface on one side, and you can see the texture on the other side. It's not double joined with the wire in the middle. The wire has just been stuck on the back. And I've been trying to see if I can recreate this shiny texture on one side of a leaf. So I've done some experiments here. So one of these leaves is spray painted in a clear gloss spray. That's this one over here. So I really like the Plasticoti brand when using spray things. I just find they're very good sprayers and they last really well. And it's just, this is my go-to brand. I don't normally give out brands to go to, but when something is really good and there's just too much choice on the market of like different types of brands, it can be, you can get choice paralysis. So I don't mind saying that this is the one I go for. And I've had a long history of art and making things, and I've used various different types of spray paints over my whole life, and this is the one for me. So this is just their super clear glossy coat. It's transparent, and I haven't had it long enough to know if it yellows with age. So that's the one thing that I'm not sure about, because some varnishes, they will yellow. I don't think that one does, but just keep that in mind. So that's what this leaf is. It's really not turned out very shiny at all. I was really hoping to get that glossy texture. It's sort of shiny in places. It's shiny where the clear gloss kind of pooled on the edges. So you can see the tip there, it pooled on it. But yes, I think back to the drawing board with this one, because this one also didn't work out. This is the same leaf, and this is coated in one coat of this stuff. This is outdoor yacht varnish. This is the kind of stuff that you would want to paint onto vintage spartery hat blocks, like I showed you at the beginning of the stream, that vintage spartery one that I had that fell apart. This is the stuff you want to paint onto them to stiffen them up a little bit so that they don't warp with steam or anything like that. But I figured, since I had some of this lying around, I'll try it on a leaf and see if I could get that same shiny texture. But you can see that's just not happened. I was so convinced that outdoor yacht varnish would really give me that shiny look, but it hasn't. Also, notice that color difference between these two, right? This was the same leaf. This is how the leaf started out looking. And look at how dark it's gone with the 2 coats of the clear gloss and just with the 1 coat of that varnish, the yacht varnish. So I'm still not impressed. I'm going to try and figure out some other options. Something I haven't tried yet is I've got a whole box of stiffener PR from a Belgian company. They do a stiffener called Durtex. In fact, husband, could you pop into the chat my review of the stiffeners? I can't remember what I called it. I think I called it New Way with Stiffeners or something. It's the thumbnail with me holding a paintbrush looking very happy. So I think the really super strength of those stiffener series, I think it's called Extra with an X, so XTRA 37 or 36 or something. That one might give me that look, but I only realized that this morning after I'd already done these 2 tests. So I will go back to the drawing board and try that with the super strong stiffener and see if that will give me that glossy look. But this is what I'm after. And I know you can buy these vintage flowers with this kind of glossy coating, but I want to see if I can make them. That's it's now, it sort of started as a fun project of, oh, can I restore this hat? And now this is like a proper thing I'm now tackling, and I want to know how those flowers, how these leaves were made, and how to achieve that kind of shiny finish. Anyway, that's those flowers. So what I'm talking about is these are the leaves, and then these are the flowers from the hat. This is the trim of the hat. We're not looking at the hat today, we're just looking at the trim. And I have been on a mission to try and recreate those white flowers. So one of the previous streams, what I did was I stiffened a whole lot of silk habotai fabric, and this is that stiffened silk habotai fabric with the paper pattern. I will pop this pattern onto my Patreon, so if you would like to get this pattern, go and sign up to Patreon. I will post that probably next month at this point, because I'm swamped with a lot of work to be doing. But if you want to make these kind of flowers that I'm showing today, then you can through my Patreon. So this is a super neat trick that a lot of people do when you have to cut out loads of petals, because I counted out how many flowers were on this vine, and I think there's like 25 petals on this vine, and I thought, my goodness, I'm not going to spend hours and hours cutting out one petal at a time. And this is where silk habotai is really great, because it's a very thin silk. So I think there's about 6 layers in here, and they're stapled together. And what the stapling means is that when you come to cut them out, I like to use these spring-loaded scissors these days. When you come to cut them out, I won't go all the way, but you see, I've made that cut, and the rest of the fabric is being held in place. So if you need to cut out lots of petals in one go, staple your fabric together. Staple it together and it holds, and you can cut it out and it won't move, and you'll get like a really good shape of petal. So that's one thing I've discovered. So neat trick, do that. What not to do? This is something I was so excited about, and I'm sure I've seen it before in a blog post from like the days before the internet got big, so, and I cannot find it. I cannot remember where I saw it, so I don't want to claim this idea as my own because other people have come up with this, but using lino cut, sheets of linoleum, as templates for the flowers. So if we look at one of the original petals, you can hopefully see there's some grooves in there. And, oh, you can see on this one really well. And there's so many grooves that I thought to myself, if I'm making 25 of these petals, in fact, here's the groove pattern. I drew on the groove pattern, but I'll get to this process in a second. I thought to myself, I'm not going to sit there and groove 25 petals just for a hat restoration that's not even a commission. It's just for me, and I cannot justify spending my time just doing things for me at the moment. So I need to find an efficient way of doing this. So I spent some time cutting out some linoleum. So I'm interested, has anyone worked with lino before? Have we got any artists in the chat? So lino, like, this used to be used, I think, on kitchen floors before it was replaced by like vinyl plastics. This stuff is great. It's essentially some kind of oils and resins poured together. It's backed on a canvas, and then you gouge it out with this cutter. This is like a hobby kit you can buy. It's quite cheap. So it's this little tool that comes with all these different gouging out bits, and you have to be really careful because you don't want to injure your hand. So you don't gouge this way if you're going to try this. Like, keep your hand behind and go forwards. It's quite easy to cut into if it's fresh. If your lino is old, it'll be really difficult to cut into. So buy fresh linoleum, and if you do buy some lino, I keep calling it linoleum. I think it's lino when it comes to art. If you do get some lino and you bought too much, like, plastic wrap it, like, and make sure it's airtight so that it doesn't like shrivel up and become old. But you can see what I did here was I drew on the pattern from one of these leaves. I flattened out this leaf with an iron. I think I did that in the previous live stream. And then I was really racking my brains about how can I get this groove pattern, because I couldn't seem to copy it and see it. And then I thought, do you know what? I might as well just draw it on in a pencil. So I did that, and I scanned it into my computer. I digitized it. So as I said, this pattern, including all of these grooves in the pattern, will be available online. In fact, somewhere. Here's what I ended up with. I'll talk about what this is in a second. But all those grooves, and thankfully I didn't waste my time, and I only did one petal, because this, where's my tester? I had a tester somewhere. This is my tester, and no wonder I couldn't tell it was my tester. Can you see those grooves? I can't. They are so not as pronounced, and ignore the fact that I haven't fluted it, because I wanted to show you what it turned out like. So it did not work in this. Does not work in silk cabotai. However, look at that velvet. That velvet has worked so well. This isn't backed or anything, so it's really floppy, so this can't be used. But the velvet with these lino grooves, look at that. You can really see the imprint. That's awesome. So if you've got some velvet flowers and you need to like batch make tons of leaves, like I like to make, there we go, I've got a drawing here, hats like this, where this is going to be a ton of leaves. If you're going to make things like that, this is great. I mean, obviously it takes time to carve, and if you've never done it before, you know, there's a risk of it going wrong, because one wrong move and you've ruined it. But if you practice and you want to save time in the long term, this could be the solution for you. Obviously, you need to use a backed and stiffened petal, but the velvet works great. The habitai, no. So don't do this, but do this. Unfortunately, this doesn't help me in my project. So I moved on to the next stage, which was going back to using the flower tools. And I thought, how on earth am I going to get all these grooves onto, where have they gone? Onto these petals. And I thought, okay, what I can do is I can make like a pattern, like a map. And then when I put a flower over this, look, I can see that. Can you see through the fabric? There you go. And so when I was doing it with my flower tools, I was going to demonstrate this, but it's getting too late and we're almost at 2 hours, and a 2-hour stream is a long time, and you've probably got things to be getting on with, and I probably need to have some dinner at some point. So what I did, oh, this is, by the way, this is drawn on, not in a normal biro, but in one of those heat set fabric pens, so that there's no chance of it coming off with the heat onto my fabric, because I was worried if I'd used a normal biro, then maybe the ink from that would imprint into the white fabric, and that would be a loss. But you can see here, that's practically the same pattern. And I figured that to get all these intricate lines, I would use this tool. This is called the rat tail comb, and this goes into the end of your flower making iron, if you've got one. It's just a soldering iron, but don't use any old soldering iron. There's specific soldering irons that have been tested to be good with these brass tools. I have a video on that somewhere. There was a live stream. There was a whole live stream session I did where I took you through my flower tools and my process and soldering irons and stuff. So you can go and watch those if you want more information about the soldering irons. But the rat tail comb, I think I've been using it wrong. Because before these flowers, I'd been using this comb like this, because I thought, oh, it curls the edges. And I'm sure there isn't necessarily a right or wrong way of using things, but this didn't really do much until I discovered that what I could do is use it this way up. So I would just draw these on. And what that gives is it gives these incredibly sharp lines. Can you see those? Let's see. Should we zoom in? That is zoomed in. Okay. Well, I think the lighting might not put this. You can see it more on the back. On the back, all these sharp grooves. That's what this rat tail comb does if you use it with the tip. And so I have made some quite good progress here. I've made loads of leaves. And also, this is a pro tip. Make more leaves than you want, than you think you need, because sometimes if the flower tool is too hot, you can see I burnt the fabric a bit. So over here, you can see the 3 dots. But you know what? That's fine, because a lot of these flowers that I'm trying to recreate, this is the original, a lot of them are just pairs of petals like this, which I've done to use up bits of my fabric. But what I'll do is I'll just cut this petal off, and then I'll have another 2 sets of 2s I can use. So there's always a solution. Don't give up. There's always a solution. Even if something went wrong, there's a way to fix it. It might not be the most perfect of ways to fix something, but if it's good enough, no one will know. No one will know if the end result looks not just as good, but like if the end result looks intentional, then no one will know there was a mistake involved. That's what I was trying to say. Right. The other thing was, yes, in that previous live stream that I spoke about this hat restoration, so the last live stream I did, I stiffened the silk habitai with Durtex, which is the stiffener from the fabric stiffener company I was talking about, who I love. But Durtex, I think, is the thinnest solution that they do. It's like only 25% strength of the chemicals in it, and it's too stiff. But it's too late. I've stiffened the fabric now, In the future, I will use PVA, and I am planning a video on PVA stiffeners and when to use them, when not to use them, and all that kind of thing, and what they are, because PVA is not what you think. So make sure you subscribe if you're interested to know what PVA actually is, because I'll give you a spoiler. There's 2 types of PVA, and it's really important you know the difference. And average consumers, it doesn't matter to the average consumer, but it really matters in millinery. So make sure you subscribe to not miss an explainer about PVA, a really deep dive. I don't know when that video is coming, but hopefully towards the winter months it will come in. Anyway, the trick with these really stiff flowers, and you can tell they're too stiff because I'm holding them and they kind of look, they look a bit like spiders. They don't really look like flower petals. Like if you look at the original, like the original looks so much softer. That's partly to do with age, but it's partly because it's just not as stiff. It's just not as stiff. And the way I decided to solve that, some of you are going to freak out when I show you what I did next. Are you ready? This is how I solve it when a flower's too stiff. There we go. Look at that. Much better. You see? They look a lot more organic now. When I tried that the first time, I thought, okay, this is crazy. I've just spent so long putting in all these grooves and tooling the edges to flute them, and now I'm just going to scrunch it up in my hand, and is it going to undo all my hard work? And I did it to one. I just took one and I scrunched it up like this. It's very gently. I'm not actually applying any pressure. And then I looked at it and I thought, actually, that's worked so well. And I just thought I had to be so brave to do that, because it's really difficult when you put so much time and effort into something and then you think, oh, is the next step to make it better to actually partially destroy the thing I've just made? And it turns out sometimes, yes. Obviously, I just showed you doing it to all of them, but I did it to one flower at a time, because if I'd done it once and it hadn't worked, in fact, I did it to this one where I ruined it and it wasn't quite the right shape anyway. So I did it on a tester, not the actual thing. But that was I'd say quite a steep learning curve for me. And I hope that teaches you something as well. I hope that kind of, puts across that it's okay to do something weird. Mr. Hat has a saying. He says, no, I don't know if this is Mr. Hat's saying, but I'm sure other people have said it too. If it's weird, but if it's wrong, but it works, then it's not wrong, or something like that. Mr. Hat, you can correct me in the chat. But that is definitely something that I had to put into practice with all of these fabulous petals that I'm now super happy with. So I guess in the next live stream, actually not in the next live stream, in the next live stream after the next one, so 2 live streams away, I'm going to aim to try and finish the restoration of this hat. So by the time that second live stream comes around, I will have made enough petals to show you how to make this trim, and then we'll pop it on the hat. And there's glue involved. Shock horror. So do stick around for that. The next live stream is going to be, hopefully, the release of my autumn-winter collection. I've never done one of these, I've never done a collection release in one go, and I've never done a live stream talking about releasing a collection. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm still finishing up some hats, some last pieces, and I can't wait to show you what I've spent the past 2 weeks working on. Ideally, I would have spent the past 6 months working on it, because the fashion industry calendar is quite intense and you want to be starting, which is why I said earlier that I'm already working on spring summer 2025 and we haven't even reached 2024 yet, so maybe I'll talk about that a little bit in that next live stream, which is probably going to happen maybe in 2 or 3 weeks time, actually. I'm hoping to release maybe 1 video between them. I'm struggling to keep on schedule, but it'll be another analysis video. So some of you watched my Meghan Markle hats video, so I'll be doing someone else next, or maybe I'll do a theatre production. I've been looking at the hats in My Fair Lady and thinking that these need some analysis and looking at. So maybe it's that one, just because I feel about talking about big hats. But anyway, well, thank you so much for watching, liking, and subscribing, and sticking with me through all the crazy heat that we've been experiencing. I hope you're all managing to keep cool, and don't forget to wear a hat if you're out in the summer sun. It's definitely time for me to sign off now because I cannot speak anymore after 2 hours of this, but I'm so glad you were able to join me live. And if you're not watching live, thank you so much for sticking through to the end. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time. Bye.